Good Monday evening, everybody. How the heck you doing on this fine Monday? I'm Manny Vitale, host of My Fight Our War, coming at you live from good old Detroit, Michigan.
Mhm.
And before we get fired up here, we have to get OG and rock it into the shot there with the
Little bit
little
of screen
sunflower.
time before I'm thrown back into the green room.
Yes, so there's for OG.
Okay,
So bye bye,
back in the
OG.
green room.
And Christy's already jumped on here. Anyways, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. I hope you had a great weekend. For those of you who were hoping to see Toronto, what can I say? For those of you Dodger fans,
Congratulations.
you're welcome. I mean, what a World Series. So, with our next guest, I tell you, you guys have been hearing me talking about Dave Stevens, since I met him, and it just there's so much to go into, and I'm gonna, that'll be up to Dave. But just by going over the stories that we got to share when I was in Connecticut, you talk about inspiration and doing all that. I was getting a lot of messages from people asking about Dave and different charities, foundations, everything that he's involved in. Not only that, but just about Dave, the man himself. And not only that, that mentions 7-time Emmy Award winning producer.
Woohoo!
And there's so much more. So I reached out to him, and by the grace of God, he said yes. So
Yay,
let's get Dave
yay.
in here. Dave Stevens,
All right, all right.
man, I tell you, Dave, you got frozen hands, and Dave, I tell you, thank you first of all for coming on, and for what, right off the bat, Toronto Dodgers.
You
What'd you think?
know, I lost interest when the Tigers were kicked out so early. So, and then I moved on to Seattle, thinking, hey, they'd never been there. I'd like to see them. And we got a great World Series. We got some amazing moments, and it was nice to see it go 7. And again, the fans got an 18-inning game, and Otani did amazing things, and Vlad Jr. did amazing things. So it was. It was great. I also have to rub it in a little this week as my Minnesota Vikings somehow accidentally beat the Detroit Lions because I didn't think they'd stand a chance with that quarterback making his first start in 5 weeks. But so I don't know if you guys got some splaining to do or some fixing to do.
You know what? For some reason, my TV, we weren't able to watch it last night. There was something going on where, but oh my God, special teams, offense, defense, but everything. I mean, it went from bad to worse. Today, this morning, social media, our sports channels, good Lord. But McCarthy, man, he didn't look like a dude with a ankle injury.
Yeah, I hope it's real. But there's a part of me is like, were the Lions struggling and that's why he had the success, or were they not ready to prep in time for him, not knowing how he was, considering Carson Wentz was, real slow and they could game plan and so there's still hope. I mean, the Packers lost.
Yep.
So it's a good thing. The Vikings are excited. The Bears, came up with a huge win. So, I it's kind of like that baseball thing. If my Vikings can't get in, I was really pulling for the Lions last year. I really, was so disappointed for them to lose, and I would like them because they don't have a Super Bowl win, and it would be nice for them to get there. And that window is closing on that team. You got an aging quarterback that's still doing well, but if that offensive line isn't going to protect him, it showed that he can't do what he can do.
That is for sure. And I mean, we have that comeback grudge match this coming week with Washington. But good Lord, man, I didn't know elbows were supposed to bend that way.
But why was he playing? And you're talking about the Jaden
7
Daniels
minutes.
injury. Why was he playing in a 31-7 blowout in the fourth quarter? Those are the things that are going to happen. You weren't going to make a comeback, and just again, now they've lost him again. So that's good for you guys because you don't know, who you're going to get. But there's no clear-cut team anymore this year. The Bills have struggled occasionally. The 49ers have kind of went, so there's not like, the Packers we thought were that great team. We thought the Indianapolis Colts were that great team, and they lose to Pittsburgh. So
Oh my
a lot
God.
of great parity. And I hope it just gets down to great teams. Again, I'd like my Vikings, but if they can't, then those Lions better step up and not suck anymore, because it'll go Minnesota, Detroit, Green Bay, Chicago, because I hate the Bears. I
Oh,
hate the Bears. So
and it's so funny because our coach, I just found out that Tony Morrissey's favorite team besides the Yankees, obviously, is the Chicago Bears.
oh,
I was like,
that's
Coach,
too bad.
I
And I
know.
just it's funny with this crazy life that I've had. I've become good friends with Jim McMahon. And now the last few years we go to the celebrity
Oh my
game
God.
and we hang out and drink beer and just talk, stuff. And it's those pinch me Forrest Gimp moments that I have in my life that is so surreal that, this kid that came from no legs to Arizona to, national spotlight and now just kind of sitting back. I just got the note from the NFL today to get ready for the credentialing for the Super Bowl. So I'm going to be starting that
Oh,
whole process and everything. So, I'm turning 60 and I'm still having, Manny, the time of my life.
Man, you know what? I was talking about you earlier this today when I was doing a live, just talking about our show and just talking about you again. And I said I literally was doing the interview, and instead of a host, I was basically a fan, just sitting there. Just I caught myself. It's like focus, listening to your stories and just being in awe. And I caught myself doing it just now. Right now, people are like, okay, they're just basically talking football. And right now, we got to get back to Dave Stevens. Dave, for those, if there is anyone who doesn't know Dave Stevens is a 7-time Emmy Award winning producer, ESPN, all these other just amazing things in sports. And not only that, but as an athlete, the only person, well, let's start off right from the beginning, was born without legs. And Dave had played, played.
Visually, there we go.
There you go. And I tried my best to warn people. I'm like, after meeting him, you don't know what you're going to expect, but I promise you're going to have a great time. But yes, and I love it because the word disabilities do not come into your vocabulary. All it is the ability to do things better than all these other people. Dave played collegiate football, wrestling, baseball. Let's see, did I mention he also had a tryout with the USA men's Olympic baseball team playing right field? So many other things. And I thought of something we talked about in studio, how, you would think it would be all positive, all these things, reinforcement with other teammates, players. And of course, that's not the case. Parents of players that got cut from teams were bitching at the coaches from the team that cut their kids. And I love the comeback that you said. These coaches had to tell their kid or tell them, hey, the bottom line is your kid sucked and got beat out by someone with their talent who happens to have no legs. So, I mean, Dave, besides being like a very proud to say friend and such a fan of yours, man. But if you could give someone, just for, like I said, if someone doesn't know you, give them a little backstory on you, just working your way up to where we are now.
Well, it's a pretty amazing story. I always say it's the greatest sports story never heard because it took place in the 70s and 80s before the internet. But, born without legs, strike one, put up for adoption right from the hospital, strike two. But I had a loving World War II veteran and a housewife that adopted me. And they were a lot older, but they took me right from the hospital and they instilled in me that I wasn't different, that not having legs was my normal. And so I grew up not thinking that I was anything different. And so at recess, I'd play with the kids and it started developing. I got tired of watching them play sports and I started thinking, okay, how can I throw a baseball without legs? How can I play football without legs? And my buddy and I in our backyards, we would pretend we were people and just with a Nerf ball and a plastic bat and a wiffle ball. And we'd be, just working in the backyard and I'd figure out, okay, set my butt on the ground and figure out how I can hit a baseball and how can I jump up with one hand and catch a ball and tackle somebody in football. And, we played basketball. I remember, pretending I was my favorite Phoenix Suns player in those days. So, it was all about not knowing any different. And so luckily, I had skill that didn't make me be the last pick at recess, and suddenly I had skill where I was moving up that food chain, and the fat kid and then weird kid were the last picks, and I was not, hey, this is kind of cool. And then taking it to the high school level, which had never been done in the state of Arizona. So I had to go through not just regular physicals, but they were testing bone tissue and making me answer all kinds of weird questions to try to get me to not play. And they couldn't come up with anything. So, I started playing football and then baseball and picked up wrestling. And there was a TV show in the 80s called That's Incredible.
Yes.
That came to our little Wickenburg cowboy town in Arizona. And suddenly I'm on TV before 40 million people. I'm standing in a green room, standing on my artificial legs, and I'm nervous because, in those days there were 3 networks plus PBS, and everybody gathered around the TV and watched it. So 40 million people going to watch me. I'm standing there on my artificial legs on a leisure suit because we were poor. I borrowed a leisure suit from a friend, and I'm standing there, and this little 4 or 5-year-old kid is chipping golf balls, and he starts chipping the golf balls off my fake legs, right? And I'm scared as is, my pimples, everything ugly. You can go on YouTube and see all this stuff, thank God. So I'm standing there and the kid starts whacking golf balls off my legs and they're going, just bouncing off. And I turn and I shrug my shoulders to the dad. I'm like, can you get your kid to stop doing that? And the dad turns and he says, Tiger, stop doing that. It was little 4-year-old Tiger Woods. So like I said, my Forrest Gump life has taken me into the same outfield with Barry Bonds. It has taken me to Ireland to play football and New Zealand and Australia to play football and trying out for the Cowboys. And, now in my later years doing interviews in my own podcast where I get to be with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers and all these big names, and some guy named I was at the All-Star game this year and I sat down with some influencer named Drewski, which I had no clue who he was. And I got down with him. He sat down on the ground. I said, let's have a brewski with Drewski. And he laughs. And I posted it, not realizing this is one of the biggest influencers. And my kids are finally paying attention to what I'm doing. So, just to wrap up that story, it's just like I still pinch myself of who I've come across in my life. It really is Forrest Gump come to life as far as, the pictures are there, the stories of me meeting Prince back when Prince was alive. Obviously I couldn't meet him now, but, having a one-on-one conversation with a guy that you're not supposed to have a conversation with, and there was no cell phones in 1991. And suddenly a busboy gives a tip to a gossip columnist and they're writing about Dave Stevens having an audience of one with Prince, and what did we talk about and all those kind of things. So I pinch myself, Manny, people ask me, do you wish that you had been born with legs? And I'm like, I have had so many amazing things happen that if I had been normal, I'd have been, garbage man or a ballerina or something crazy,
Garbage man.
Galvin.
Oh my God. It's just so outstanding hearing, and another thing is seeing your videos, seeing the stuff that, because of social media, some people, there's haters everywhere. Some people would say, well, he really didn't play. He was just put on the team. No, my ass. I seen it. I seen the videos of playing. You don't get a tryout just to get a NFL team notoriety. They already have that. So these are all things that you weren't a publicity stunt, man. You raw talent which people need to. I like I said, Dave, your ears must be ringing all the time. From I'm like your biggest fan, man. When it comes to just think about what he does every day, and like you said, it's this is nothing new. This is your normal, and just some of the things too. I remember the story you told me. If you, I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, about you were playing right field for the tryouts, and a very not friendly superstar had some smart ass or comments.
Well, let him.
Yeah.
I don't know
Tell
if
us
you
about
wanted to share that.
Oh, I don't mind because again, if I ever get around to writing my book, there's three people that know this story. One will deny it, and two will say it happened. So I was invited to the Olympic tryouts in 1983. It was September 9th, I believe, if I remember correctly, and it was I don't know why I got invited because it was mostly college guys, but it was Barry Bonds, Don Wakamatsu, he became a major league catcher. Doug Henry, who was a pitcher who pitched in the major leagues. Um, Will Clark. So there were all these big names, and there was Barry Bonds and Odie McDowell who were playing at baseball at Arizona State at the time. So we got sent to the outfield tryouts where they stick us in there, and it's like a little scrimmage. And I swear to God, it was a Hollywood moment. Back-to-back balls were hit to me in right. And in those days, it doesn't show now, but I could run on my hands and I could scoot around and get and catch things. So balls hit to right center. I run as fast as I can. I leap up and I catch and make this diving catch, roll into the ground, right? Pop up, throw it in. Very next pitch on the very next batter goes to my left. So again, whap, 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 dive, catch, roll. And I caught the ball, and in my mind, I'm like going, "Oh my God, I can't believe I've hadn't done this in a high school game ever." These kind of catches. So, Odie McDowell, who went on to play Major League Baseball with the Atlanta Braves and various other teams, Texas Rangers, comes running over and he goes, "Dave, man, you're a hot dog, man. I love it, buddy." And so we kind of just after that inning and we started going in, they're like, "Okay, let's get you guys over to the other field to hit." And Odubie's like, "Hey, I know it's tough on your arms. Why don't you jump on my back and give me a piggyback ride?" And I weighed like 98 pounds in those days. So, I just kind of got on his shoulders and we're, heading over to the baseball field. We're walking over and Barry Bonds comes walking up and he's like, "Odubie, why are you carrying him, man? Why are you wasting your energy? He's not going to make the team, man. Just put him down, man. Come on. You got to think about yourself. Put him down." And I'm like thinking, I don't want to come between college teammates. And I'm like, "Odubie, put me down." And he goes, "Man, that's just Barry being Barry. He's such a bleep." And we just kept on going. And it was, that was my one time meeting Barry Bonds before he made it to the big leagues. And I watched that evolution of that person who never accepted responsibility for his actions, his entitlement, his holier than now. He had the skills to have been in the Hall of Fame if he didn't juice. We don't have the proof, allegedly, but is he in the Hall of Fame? No. So those guys are getting penalized. But yeah, my first encounter with him was not a good one, and I don't know if he probably wouldn't like that excerpt in my book, but it happened. And it's one of those things. We meet a lot of our idols that we don't necessarily they don't end up being who we thought we are, put them on a pedestal. Reggie Jackson is a guy I idolized all my childhood. I wanted to be like him. I thought I am like him because people are staring at me with no legs and I've always got to come through. And that's what Reggie did. But years later, when I was around him in the media, not so nice. But if I ever get a chance to sit him down and thank him and tell him what he meant to me, I've met him once when I was in high school, but we always put these people on a pedestal like Tiger Woods, and then they fall from grace. LeBron James, we forget, not LeBron James, Kobe Bryant. We forget about the things that happened in Kobe's past, and once they move on, we ordain them. So we're all human, and I think that's the biggest thing when we judge those books by their covers. I'm friends with Darryl Strawberry to this day. He's become a minister, and I am so thankful that I didn't judge him based on what his past and what his issues were. And I think that's what brought us together and gave us that second chance that we had from the movie that you had mentioned on Netflix. So,
Mhm.
so it's like if we just look at people for face value and
Mhm.
give them those opportunities, because being a disabled person, although if you looked at the resume, it wouldn't you wouldn't go, that guy has no legs, and you'd feel sorry for him or whatever. But people with disabilities are the biggest minority in the world, yet we have the smallest voices. And it's awesome, Manny, that you give us an opportunity with what you do with helping the veterans that have overcome what they have. That's much more incredible. All I've ever dealt with is not having legs. I didn't get
Um,
shot up or blown up or deal with major drug issues or PTSD or all of the situations that a lot of our veterans come home to and really don't get the love and support that we get. But as I was saying, as being somebody who has a disability, we get labeled by how we look, and our president has even made some disparaging comments about those with disabilities over the past. But if we could utilize our brains and utilize those talents that we have, I don't understand why somebody who might have spina bifida or meningitis or another ailment can't create our military defense system. Why do I have to be able to carry a backpack up a hill both ways in mud and run through something on a certain time when my brain can contribute to creating a
Mhm.
rocket system or a missile system? And that goes for the same for the police force, for
Yep.
detectives,
Yep.
all these things. Obviously, there's limitations for those with certain seen and unseen disabilities, but to
mhm.
just get those opportunities, we're not represented in the media. We're not represented in Congress or politics, except for we have one senator, Tammy Duckworth, who lost her legs, but we just don't get that representation. And so I've been this champion for 59 years, this advocate that gets pulled into the worlds of Easter seals and Runway of Dreams and our buddy Tony Morrissey's amazing week Sunday programs or the Saturday program this year. So I just I love my life. I've enjoyed what I've done. Having three sons might be the biggest accomplishment I've ever done as far as raising them to the men that they are now, that they're 21, 19, and 17. And just like I said, I pinched myself because of where I've come from, what I've evolved to, and what I hope to accomplish down the road.
Man, I tell you, you talk about a life well lived, man, and I have had people, ask a lot of questions. And like you said, about how everything's not what it seems, and I'm the new kid, doing this stuff. I still am learning as far as being a host and stuff like that. For me, this doesn't seem real. But I remember when I first started getting to meet some people that were a lot higher up than me as far as hosted shows. I was like, oh my God, I'm sitting in the studio with these guys. And I was like, and during the show, cameras running, mic's hot and all that stuff. Everything's good. And all of a sudden, okay, that's a wrap. Cameras off, mics are off. And all of a sudden, they're like, yeah, the person we brought up in this discussion, they're like, yeah, that guy's a freaking asshole. And it's like, whoa, wait, we just spent a half hour talking. Yeah, he's a piece of shit. And then I was like, holy crap. And for me being the new guy and doing the motivation, the recovery for mental health, all these things, I'm thinking, well, this is exactly where everyone needs to hear. Everyone's laying their shit right on the table. Man, then the police officer in me and the 1%er motorcycle club member came out in me where it's like they're just people just like everyone else, just like you said, Dave, and everything's not what it seems. You brought up Barry and the wonderful human that he is, but you also brought up Daryl. And I feel so blessed to have been able to sit and just talk with you about these certain things. And another story was about Daryl. We already heard the Barry situation. You mind throwing the story about the whole thing with that Netflix show? And not only that, but your relationship with Daryl. And the thing is, so there's some people who are not sure what happened with Daryl, but maybe a little backstory in there as well to show the opposite of what we saw with Barry.
Yeah, I mean, Daryl, for those that don't know, because again, we're talking about multi generations over 40 years ago. He basically got to the major leagues as an 18 and 19-year-old with Doc Gooden as two of the biggest phenoms in Mets history, and they went to a World Series. They won one. And they were handed the keys to New York at that age with drugs and women and all of those things that came by, where basically in those days everyone looked the other way anyway, as long as they were winning. And Daryl ended up going down a dark path with drugs and alcohol, and he ended up getting let go by the Mets, and then he signed with the Dodgers, and that failed, and he went with the Giants, and that failed, and he basically had been blackballed from baseball for any major league team. And the St. Paul Saints said, "Hey, Daryl, in 1996, if you're trying to get back, we're your last stop." And it was an independent baseball team in Minnesota that drew 6 to 8,000 people a night, because I was working in Minnesota. And the owner of that team, Mike Veck, I bugged him because backstory: Mike Veck's father, Bill Veck, hired a little person, or a midget if it's offensive, but a little person, to come up and bat one time in a game. And then Major League Baseball said, "That's a joke, and we'll never let anybody else do it again." So when I was a kid and I saw that story, I said, I want to grow up one day and play professional baseball and prove that somebody that of that height can play professional baseball. So fast forward to 1996, Mike gives in, lets me have a 3-week tryout with the team. I show up. Jack Morris is trying to make a comeback with them. Uh, Former Twin outfielder JT Brewitt is playing on the team. So they had some star power. And then Darryl Strawberry is there. So the first day I come out onto the field, and everybody is expecting Darryl Strawberry, and I come out, this legless dude, and all cameras go, "Whoof," and they're like, "Oh, here's another gimmick by Mike Veck and the Saints." And so the cameras are following me, and then Daryl comes out, and it was like there was less pressure on Daryl because there was this legless dude in camp. And Daryl and I started talking and becoming friends, because all the 21, 22-year-old baseball players wanted to go out and drink every night and go party. And Daryl couldn't be exposed to that. So after practices, we would go to a local restaurant and sit there and sip iced tea and just talk. And kind of, just, I was 30, he was, I think 31, 32, and we just became friends. And so, as that progressed that week, I started a game at second base. I led off, and I was playing, and then it was towards the end, and they said, "Dave, come with us to Madison, Wisconsin." So I wasn't even scheduled to play in Madison, but we drive to Madison, Wisconsin, play the Madison Black Wolves. We get there. I warm up in the outfield, doing my thing, go to the dugout, not expecting anything, right? And Daryl comes up that game, boom, home run. Next at bat, boom, home run. Third at bat, boom, home run. And it was the Strawberry of old. That swing, if you've ever seen it, much like Junior's, was just perfect. So he's got 3 home runs. We're crushing Madison 11-2 or whatever it was at the time. And all of a sudden, I hear this PA announcer, "Now batting for Darryl Strawberry, Dave Stevens." And I look around and I'm like, "Me?" And I'm like, "What in the heck is going on?" I had no batting helmet and my gloves weren't on. I didn't have my bat out, nothing. And all of a sudden, Marty Scott, God bless him, he just passed away, said, "Daryl said he wanted you to hit for him. You've earned it." And I looked at Daryl and he's like, "Dave, man, I want you to go do this." And so I grabbed my bat, grabbed my gloves, go out there, and I'm sure the crowd is like going, "What's going on?" We had a chance to see this human being hit a 4th home run. So I go up there, and this guy's throwing 90, and I'm so not prepped mentally or anything. And I get up there, and I fouled off. I think it was a 7 or 8 pitch at bat. I fouled off a couple, and then for some reason he froze me with one that was just above my head, but the umpire called it a strike. And I was just like, I could break down and freak out and go crazy, or I could just go back to the dugout. So I just decided to go back to the dugout. And it was a highlight. I don't know if I want to say it was the highlight of my life. It was a highlight that ended up being a big part of the movie, where the movie kind of makes it like that was my only moment with the Saints. They Hollywoodize it a little bit. But it still turned out to be an amazing moment. And again, how many guys can say they've pinch hit for Darryl Strawberry at any level? And then he goes on to win a World Series with the Yankees and win 2 World Series with the Yankees. He fell off the radar a little bit with some issues and problems after he got colon cancer and went through that. But now he's a minister. He's doing great. He tours around the nation. He's got a book that he just announced is going to come out next year, and he's going to come on my show to talk about it. But we run into each other from time to time, and we just text each other to just say, hey, we love each other. He had a heart attack scare earlier this year, which really freaked me out a little bit. It was a few days before he was supposed to have his number retired by the Mets, and he had a heart attack. But he's overcome that, eating healthier and doing great. And I'm just so blessed that I have known him again. Just if I had just been like everyone else, who knows what our lives would have been like, and would he have had the success? He says in the movie, he gives me the credit for his comeback, and I can't say that I see that, but if that's true, he said it. It's very humbling, and to knowing, as we talk about the things that you talk about, Manny, if you can make a difference in one person's life, if I did make that difference in his life and help him to get back to that level, then
Amen.
I'll accept it.
That, what a gift. And again, hearing you talk, and that's why I said I had to catch myself in Connecticut as we're doing the show, and here I am just kind of like sitting like, oh, okay, what's that? I was like, oh shit, that's right. Where was I? What was I talking about? Because it's so easy just to get caught up in the person and the story.
And give us the name of the movie again so people can watch it.
It's The Saint of Second Chances. And if you don't have Netflix, borrow somebody's passcode. And if you don't, you can go on YouTube, and someone has spliced pretty much the entire movie together in clips. So you could type in Dave Stevens, Daryl Strawberry, Saint of Second Chances, and that little segment will pop up. Given what's going on with all these streaming services and my own,
That's on Netflix, though.
yeah, Netflix.
Okay.
Now, besides that one, are there any other? Because I always tell people just Google you and just try to check you out in any other way. Are there any other like documentaries or anything else that comes to mind that that would a little more in depth with you as well?
Well, if you Google Dave Stevens, that's incredible. You get to see me when I was a 15-year-old kid, and you hear on that tape, and in my crackly 15-year-old voice, when Fran Tarkenton says, Dave, what do you want to do with your life? And I say, well, one day I'd like to replace Howard Cosell, and I'd like to play professional baseball. And again, those goals for a kid with no legs who is poor, living in a one-room house, they're not going to happen. And that's why I tell everybody, you got to shoot for your dreams until you're proven that you can't do them anymore. If I just sat around and felt sorry for myself and, sit in a Walmart with a can and pencils, saying, hey, give me money or whatever, I see these things. It's like, as long as I have two working arms, I'm going to continue to show people that, that I take the dis out of disability. And if I can teach empathy instead of sympathy, other people might look at people with seen and unseen different disabilities a little differently, and they'll treat them with more respect, and they'll treat them with, hey, maybe I should offer them a job, or maybe what could I do to make their life easier, or what could I invent that'll help their lives be better. And the things that I work with the Abilities Expo, where I see state-of-the-art products that insurances won't cover, that can give robotics and put somebody back who's been paralyzed being able to walk, those veterans and those guys that have been hurt. So I'll be an advocate as long as my shoulders are breaking down. You saw me jump up on this couch, but the biggest challenges I have, Manny, in my life now are my day-to-day living. You watch those videos of me jumping up and catching footballs and diving and tackling and winning wrestling matches, and it's like, now I'm slow, I'm breaking down. My world is different than your world because, I live in your world. You don't live in mine. So it's like getting a stool to get up on a stool so I can hop around and cook and do all these things. It's getting tougher and tougher, getting in a car, doing groceries, all these kind of things. And it's like when those athletes come to terms with when, it's time to walk away from the game. It's getting tough for me in life like that. And I can't just walk away because I got my 3 sons that I got, to help raise and continue and hopefully have grandkids one day. But if I can continue to get my story out there and people can follow me on social media and see the crazy things they do and the interviews that I have with, Brett Favre last year. And, one of my coolest moments last year was interviewing Wayne Newton. for me again,
Oh, wow.
like who gets to interview Wayne Newton, and it's
Dave
like,
Stevens.
most people don't even know who the heck Wayne Newton is. And this guy is like an Elvis Presley, and we posted the video and we posted the pictures, and it was funny that Wayne Newton is 80 and he looks younger than I do. People were making fun of that fact, but to just get these guys to sit down and, say, hey, I'm friends with JB Smoove, or let me get Brett Favre's agent on the line so we can talk about him dealing with, the problems that he's got, and picking up the phone, and I had Lee Steinberg call me this week just to see how I was doing. And he's like, hey, his son is blind. He's like, Dave, do you think you could help my son get into motivational speaking? And I'm like, you're Lee freaking Steinberg. I mean, Show Me the Money was, that movie is made after you. Tom Cruise is based on Lee Steinberg and that movie. So, like I said, I to get to meet those people, to get to meet the Vanity Vitales that I meet in life, like that's what you said, like people have value no matter what pedestal that we put them on. And this platform that you're doing, if there's 2 people watching or 200 people watching, if you reach somebody, you've made an impact in life.
Oh, it's so true. And for you, for every Barry Bonds, there's a Darryl Strawberry. For every other person who's got something negative to say, there's a Dave Stevens. And that's the good part of this, this whole impact that you have going on. And it just doesn't end. Every time I see your posts, you've got so much happening, and you just you give and give, and it's not just words, it's your actions. There's so many. The Abilities Expo, I mean, can you fill us in on the Abilities Expo?
Is that an annual thing?
Yeah, the Abilities Expo is it's called abilities.com, and it is an expo that takes place in 6 cities in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Dallas, and Phoenix. And it is a boat show for the disabled world, for Toys for Crips, I guess. I don't know. I can get away with that. You can't say that, but I can say that.
Before we go any further, I just got Dave. When I first met Dave, I didn't know what to expect, and you even said, "Be ready," and I was just like, "Oh shit," because Dave also, in his words, not mine, also ventured into entertainment besides ESPN, and spent some time as a stand-up. Oh, I'm sorry, sit down
comedian. Yeah,
comedian.
Yep.
So, and some of the jokes. Well, we'll let you decide.
They're obvious.
You want to throw in there, we'll throw. But anyways,
but yeah, the expo is just the expo is like, think of it as the boat show or the hot tub show for the disabled community. They bring in vendors all over the country with amazing beds and catheters and clothing and things that'll lift people up or put people in a tub or put you in a contraption that you just fill with water. For again, there's so many disabilities out there, seen and unseen, and it's just great. So I go there, I do stories and features and television, and I try to do tongue-in-cheek type stuff, silly stuff, but also important stuff to showcase the vendors and the speakers and things like that. And I'm always trying to come up with silly stuff, but also that is our world. And if you can make it humorous, it helps to get that elephant out of the room sometimes. So if our disabled community sees me, they point, hey, Dave, I love your stuff. Like, that makes me feel good. And the vendors love it because I'm showcasing their products, and it helps drive sales for them, and it opens up more eyes and stuff on them. So I'm doing that. I'm also on the board of Easter Seals in Connecticut, so I do a lot of fundraising for those folks. And I'm restarting my podcast. I was with a couple of guys for a few years. I'm rebranding it to call it the Dave Stevens Show. That's going to pop up sometime in November on Your Home TV and on Roku. So I'm going to be excited to actually be on a platform other than social media. So that's good. And my motivational speaking takes me all over the place, to talk to schools and businesses. And then finally, Disability Dream and Do, which is the baseball camps that I work with. We put on sports camps for disabled kids around the country. We pair with minor league baseball teams. We go in for a Saturday. The kids run around the players and play baseball, and then the next day they're on the field for a game to be with the players. And it really is, we're looking again for another Dave Stevens or Jim Abbott or Shaquem Griffin or Pete Gray or all these amazing disabled sports stars that the world doesn't know about.
Man, I tell you, and seeing um, some of the posts that you put out there, again, absolutely love them. The interaction with the everyone from kids to adults and everyone in between is just you've got this connection of you just this aura, the way about you that you connect with everybody, and it's very contagious. You can tell, but it just seems with the kids. I mean, because you're a big dude, man, and you got that raspy. I mean, you could be intimidating. These kids don't even blink. They're just like, it's like they just want to come up and like pinch your nose or something.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know if it's because if they're more at ease, because like here's this adult at my eye level. I mean, it's the same for dogs. When dogs freak out and go, hey, well, this human has no legs. Should I sniff him or bite him? And the kids are like that too. They sniff me, they realize, but it's just that's why it's a part of me that is breaking down is the physicality that I can do by getting down and leading by example with these kids and throwing a ball and doing the things that is getting tougher and tougher because I have no rotator left in this shoulder. It's been operated on 2 times and now it's completely gone. And they say, well, we could build one from a cadaver and you can be in a bed recovering for a year. We can take another part of your arm or a different part of your body and try to build it. You'll be in bed recovering for a year, or you can live life in pain. And right now, at age 59, I can't afford to lay in bed for a year. I've got too much to do, and I would go crazy. I'd end up looking like Jabba the Hutt. I'd be a big old fat lump, without being able to do anything. So I get by. I'm not on any pain medication. I might say that medical marijuana does help depending on people's outlooks on that. But I need to be able to do the things that I need to do. And I until they invent something that is, because the doctors have said we could do those 2 surgeries, but you walk on your arms and it's probably going to bust or rip in 4 or 5 years. So,
because it's like the same, when it comes to the anatomy with the joint's a joint, man. And I feel your pain, man. And I can, like I had my right knee, right hip, and right shoulder replaced. I've had cages and screws, and the part, like you said, is looking in that mirror. And up here, I'm ready, man. And then you're not. Physically not able to.
But you get those sparks, Manny, because it's like as broken down as I am. I was just in a celebrity softball game a couple of weeks ago in Houston, and so here, I haven't swung a bat in a year, and I'm there thinking I'm not going to play, and they're like, "Hey, Dave, go pinch hit." And it's like, "Oh, wasn't for Darryl Strawberry this time," but so it's like,
and I'm on this team.
Yeah, I'm with Terrell Owens and all these other guys that are on this team, and so they send me up to hit, and the guy that had organized, he's like, "Hey, do you want the guy to push you around the bases in your wheelchair, and no matter what you do, it's And I'm like, I said, "No, I'm an athlete," and I got out of my wheelchair. I came up to home plate. I swung and missed the first 2 pitches by a foot each, and I sat back and I'm like. I literally prayed, which I don't do much of, and I literally sat back and I said, God, don't let me disappoint this crowd, because there's 6,000 people in the stands, right? And they're all going, what the heck's going on? This guy's embarrassing himself. So that very next pitch, and they're playing on 90-foot bases because it was on the AAA team for the Texas Rangers, the Frisco Rough Riders. And so we're playing 90-foot bases. So if you've got to smack a ball, you got to smack it. And on that third pitch, and the video's out there if you go and see it, I crushed the ball to the outfield, right? So the guy was running for me. He got to second base. It was a double. And I just kind of came off the field. And it was just those moments. It's like, do I have it? And I knew I didn't. I don't know where it came from that day, but it, to still be able to pull that one out of a hat at age 59, it's still a good feeling. And that's, Manny, what I'm still trying to do is to just, live that life by example as long as I can, to motivate by example, because I feel so it's so weird to go, oh, I inspire you and look at me and look at the amazing things I've done and oh, la, 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 la. And it's just like, I was taught at an early age by my baseball coach that it's not about me, it's about everybody else. And so, I continue to try to pay it forward with what my limitations are. But you know what, Manny? I'm lucky because look at the people that you've come across in our lives with severe addictions or people that have lost limbs that have had to overcome so much. And I have no complaints. I'm getting older, yeah, getting fatter, yeah, but I look at other people and I say, I'm not deaf, I'm not blind, I'm not mentally challenged, although my friends say I might be a little wacko.
I'm with you.
But I am. The smile's always going to be there until it isn't. I'm going to continue to just try to do what I can with whatever's breaking down. And if there are, if somebody can invent one of those Roombas that can hold my fat ass, wouldn't that be great to just set my butt on a Roomba and just guide me around the house?
And if you know what, if it can be done, you're going to see Dave Stevens doing it. I know it. But it is, like I said, just the what you just observe with the people that you interact with, man, at these expos and these charity events and all that. And it's not just a photo op. And because I've had people ask me, they said, do you think a lot of it could be just trying to get publicity? I'm like, no. I go, Google it, watch it, you'll understand it. And sure as shit, I'll get a phone call. Dude, you're right, man.
Well, that's the problem, Manny. I hate to come off, and I don't want to ever disparage those moments that we've seen. And we've seen them on Sports Center where they'll take a kid with Down syndrome who's the manager, and they'll let him run a play. And it's like, oh, yay, great. But I was always battling to be out there for that second play and that third play and that fourth play. That's why, my life story is a hell of a lot more impressive than Rudy's. And I've done a lot more than my life with Rudy than what Rudy's lived on that one silly, stupid play. And I don't have a big movie with Matt Damon or anybody in my life or, whoever was, I forget who was in it. But, so it's not bitterness. It's just the facts that there was no internet. There was none of this stuff. And again, if I tried and failed, I lost wrestling matches early in my career. I would strike out occasionally and not walk or not get a hit, and in football, I was very lucky that teams would try to double team me. And if they're both worried about this guy without legs, that frees up a linebacker to come in. So there would, my coaches learned to take advantage of my situations. In wrestling, I knew what to do against you leggies. You guys didn't know what to do against me, so I learned to get those advantages. The same thing, in baseball, if my team was behind and they really needed me, I would Pete Rose crouch as low as I could to try to get that walk. If it wasn't, then I would get up and I'd get in my stance. But so and what coach, God bless my coach who just died last year. He was 92. What coach says, I'm going to stick a guy without legs in right field as my starting right fielder? Who would ever do that? So a different era. And I'm so blessed that I had those opportunities along the way to, I tried out for the Cincinnati Reds, the Minnesota Twins. I played football for Team USA in Ireland. I threw a two-point conversion pass in Australia against the Australian national team, things that my world people with disabilities are not supposed to do. And then now in life and later, I've played in these flag football games where I sacked Michael Vick in a flag football game and he retired the next day. If you get sacked by a dude with no legs, it's time to walk away, right?
It's time to hang up. And the thing too, Dave, is we were talking, like you said, about some of the gimmicks that they'll have the manager come out and then the other team kind of goes and acts like they're good. That never happened to you. In fact, it was just the opposite. They didn't shorten the bases. They didn't ease up on the pitches. They didn't change the plays for football or wrestling. They were exactly the same, and more so, because as that coach told that parent, your kid got cut not because of a gimmick, because Dave Stevens is better than your kid that has both legs.
Yeah, it's so funny to have those conversations with the parents and the students and the coaches and everything, just going like, how bad is your kid if your kid can't beat a dude without legs? And just thinking those parents that, it's like, and it, it makes me proud. And I love talking to my old coaches to, get their feedback and to have come up with those things. And, the original football coach of my high school team told the JV coach not to play me. He told him, I don't want to see Stevens on the field. And he broke his coach's word, his coach's decision, and I made a tackle on the first play I ever played in high school. And that coach ended up being the wrestling coach who convinced me to come out for wrestling, which was my best sport. So if he had gone against what the head coach at the time, who knows? But again, to have people believe in you and take those times, it's a whole different era then, because I am still friends with my wrestling coach. I was just at his house last month in Arizona. He turned 75. We had a big party for him. And, those coaches today, you can't have your students come over to your house. You can't have a cook over or do any of those kind of things. And that's what saved my life. My coaches would have me at their houses on the weekend because we lived 20 miles out of town, and I was poor. I lived in a one-room house. I didn't even have a bedroom. I had a refrigerator that blocked a little area where my bed was, and to overcome those kind of things to get where I am. I took my sons back a few years back to see that one-room house. And my son Brady looked at it and he was just horrified that it was this small. I couldn't have friends over. I couldn't, and my son said, Dad, why did you choose to live here? And I said, Brady, I didn't choose to live here, but I could choose where I wanted to go. And so that's why I worked so hard to get out of Wickenburg and to get out of Arizona and to play college football and to work at ESPN and do all those kind of things, because I came from absolute poverty. And to go from that, when the odds are against you with a disability and you're poor and you've got nowhere, and in turn sports was my platform to get me where I wanted to go. And I started last week with AI because it makes it a little easier to try to start writing my book, because I don't know, what do you leave in? What do you leave out? It seems sensational. It doesn't seem believable. Every story outdoes, like I said, oh yeah, there's Prince, there's Daryl Strawberry, here's Dave and Michael Jordan, here's Tiger Woods, here's all these people. And then the stars and celebrities, that I get to be around with. But again, as I say, I love meeting the good people, like the Mannies, the coaches, the people that are actually making a difference in life and not getting paid an exorbitant amount to hit a ball, kick a ball, punch somebody in a ring, all those kind of things.
Man, I tell you, it just just like you said, the people you have met and just all the changes that you've made in so many lives, and like you said, some of the things that you say and someone's going to hear something. And like you said, the coaches, especially back then, to be that coach who had the balls to say, you know what, I see. Plus, too, I know you lost your father. You said they were elderly. I mean, that could have went south real bad. And here, like you said, the coaches nowadays, I'm going to have the team over. Oh, what's going on over there? They're partying, doing drugs, some crazy shit. And now it's looked at sideways, whereas your coaches, they were like a mentor, father figure, whatever it was, who saw past, you without the legs. They saw the heart and soul of Dave. And God bless him for that. And I think that's what makes, every time I get, it's a few times I have got to talk to you and chat, man, I just love it, because learning more about you, not the athlete, not all this other stuff, the Emmy award-winning producer that, people, with ESPN. And Dave can grab this and say, hey, Daryl, then at the All-Star game, I look and all of a sudden I see Dave go, this is how you get an interview. Hops off your chair, grabs the mic, excuse me, goes right through up to A-Rod while he's doing an interview, tells the lady, put this up there, puts the mic up there, and A-Rod saw you, and immediately, there was no, oh, here, let him. No, man, you made your way, and A-Rod, just like any other reporter there.
That's that's the problem too for me, because being in a wheelchair, it limits us in all of these stadiums, they are not built for wheelchairs. They're not meant to get us onto fields easily accessible. And so that's the problem when you've got Otani over here with 80, 100 journalists around him. I can't get to him. You got Aaron Judge over here. You can't get to him. So it's like, I'll do this. And I thought, well, maybe this will go viral. It didn't really, but then I get the good interviews with, a Dale Murphy, or I hang out with Aaron Boone, and we talk about, hey, Aaron, why'd you quit ESPN for this job? And we have fun where we talk and we reminisce, and you get the Dave Winfields and all these guys that now know me, Burt Blylev, and all these people that I can just go, I'm name dropping, and it's embarrassing in a certain way sometimes, because my phone will, just like I said yesterday, I'm sitting at home and Lee Steinberg calls me, and I'm like,
insane.
what? This is Patrick Mahomes. This is Patrick Mahomes' agent calling me. So, and as I said, if people can take a little bit of me, and see that, and realize that I've worked hard to craft my interview style. I've worked hard to, be a good dad. I've worked hard to not wake up every day and feel sorry for myself. I could have just, like I said, over the last few years when ESPN laid off 583 people, someone said, oh, you've got no legs, you've got the golden ticket. Well, we all got laid off, and I had to reinvent myself, 10 years ago. And I've had more fun in the last 10 years of my life doing what I dreamed about doing. And if nobody sees it, I don't care. I'm still doing it. I'm still able to, post here's 3 pictures of me and Dave Roberts from last season, of the Dodgers. And here's me with the manager, and here's me with Vladdy Guerrero Jr. And here's, I'm hanging out with John Olerud in Seattle, and all these kind of things. And it's just one of those things where, your viewers, if they're not going to YouTube and Googling it, they're just not going to believe it, because you have to, I don't know how to explain it. They go, how did you play baseball? How did you play football? And it's just like, luckily in an age where we didn't have that documentation, it's all there. So every story that we've said, 100% true. It's all documented. Thank God that I've been in front of a camera since I'm 4 years old. When I was putting on shows for the Shriners, I'd wear my little artificial legs and come out and sing a couple of bad songs on top of spaghetti, and lead the national, Pledge of Allegiance, and do my thing, and then help raise money for Jerry's kids. I'd always do that outside of a Kmart. So I've always really tried to break that stereotype of what the expectations are with somebody with a disability.
Man, well, I tell you, Dave Stevens and disability, they don't even go in the same sentence, man. And
did you ever meet Tiger Woods after he got older?
No, I wish I could. I doubt he'd remember it, but I did, like I said, on YouTube. That's the luxury of what we have. You can Google Dave Stevens and Tiger Woods, and you can see Tiger Woods on his little segment say, when I grow up, I want to beat Jack Nicklaus and Tom Watson, and he's got the Tiger swag and all that. And I'd love to, because his life has gone through a lot of ups and downs too, and hopefully things are good for him, and he can be as good a dad as I was.
Well, I tell you, Dave, knowing you I'm getting to know even more about you. If anyone's going to meet him, it's going to be you. There are no limits to greatness, and like I always like to say, is the only limits we have are the limits we put upon ourselves. And there are no setbacks, only great comebacks waiting to happen. And
Amen.
And I tell you, I can't tell you how much I appreciate this, you coming on. And, for you, like you said, how, just your phone, you could look down and here's these people going through your contacts. It's like, oh, come on. What's that a code name for? Who's that really? People. Well, Dave, just to let you know how I feel about you, I feel the same way when I scroll through here and this is Dave Stevens. Yeah, I got his number. This is who I got. So that's what you mean to me. And I would really love to just keep chatting with you, in the future, get together some more. And I told you that first time, and I remember when we were leaving the studio, I said, man, I don't want to bother you. I know you're a busy man, but I would love to stay in touch with you and just pick your brain and just talk to you. And you were very gracious. I know you had to leave, but you still stuck around for, I think, another hour, just talking more stories. And I was just so captivated by it. And I remember you were leaving again. And I said, I would just really love to talk to you because you really show what it's like to be a man. And I don't know if you remember that, but it just really stuck with me. And like I said, that's why people in the last month or so, they're like, what's going on with Dave Stevens? You bring this name up, but then I got to bring up little excerpts and stories about it. So I think now people are going to, get to know, besides the interview they saw on My Fight or War on YouTube, a little bit more about Dave Stevens, the man. And I thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm so blessed that I'm continuing to meet people like you. I'm excited for my new show, and and then there's some great ones. If you ever want to look for a great interview, Google Dave Stevens and Jim Abbott. I interviewed Jim Abbott a couple of years ago, and he actually emailed me after the interview and said it was the best interview he'd ever done because we talked about things that you wouldn't ask him because I could, because I've experienced all those things. We talked about being stared at, what it was like to date, all those kind of things. And that's one of those I'm hoping to get him on the new show so we can revisit it. But Manny, I want to thank you for just giving me this platform to talk a little bit. Usually I'm the one doing the interviewing, so it's different on the other end.
I tell you, this is always open for you anytime, 24/7. You can call me anytime, any day, and I will go live with you, do a show with you anytime.
Come back on when you're ready to go on the Roku so we can really.
Yeah, we can't wait to see you on that.
Absolutely.
And if you ever want a little sidekick, I'd be more than happy to pop on with you.
Hey, Manny, this is my network, and I can put any programming on it that I want. So if we can sidebar, and you want to throw your show on the Dave Stevens Disability Network, by all means.
Hey, well, I definitely would
we're
look forward to talking to you more about that. I mean, seriously, to be any part of what you're doing would be an absolute privilege and an honor for me. And now that that's brought up, I'm not going to stop bugging you.
All right, brother.
But again, thank you so much. And the next time I talk to you, I do want to talk to you about your thought of having a lizard chase a little girl around a baseball field.
All right.
Because I saw the look on her face as that lizard went running over and got on the ball. And people are going, what? We'll talk about that next time. But again, Dave Stevens, thank you so much for your time. I love you, man. Thank you. Thank you. And we will be talking soon.
All right.
All right. You take care.
Have a good night.
Man. Dave Stevens, I tell you.
You are just grinning from ear to ear. Look at your face.
I tell you, he made my day.
And he got a lot of people sending him blessings.
That have been wondering, Dave Stevens and this and what. Now you know why. Now you know why that you got this much of what I got to encounter. So again, thank you guys for spending some time with us. And
Bo was on, his nephew.
Thank you so much. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to pop the comments over because again, I got caught up in talking with the man himself, but we will go back and answer all those as well. But until then, man, thank you guys for sharing your time with myself, OG, and of course, Dave Stevens. And until next time, man, I love you guys. Remember, addiction's only word. It's not a death sentence. Going to keep fighting that good fight, and the best is yet to come. Love you guys.